The meeting of the, is this on? The meeting of the Marquette City Commission is called to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 12th, 2023. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, we have roll call, please.
Commissioner Hanley,
Here.
Commissioner Larson,
Here.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Stonehouse,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Here.
and Mayor.
Commissioners, do we have a motion to excuse Mayor? Commissioner Smith,
I move that we excuse Mayor due to work reasons.
second. Commissioner Ottaway,
Second.
discussion? Okay, all in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us, and I need a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Larson,
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
and a second. Commissioner Stonehouse,
Second, Your Honor.
discussion? Commissioner Larson, Stonehouse?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye, yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. I have two announcements tonight. The city's work on the master plan is continuing, and it's very important to our city's future. If you are all interested in having a say in what Marquette will look like in the future, please consider joining us for two workshops. One is this Wednesday from 6 to 8. The second is on Thursday from 10 to 12. We would appreciate if you sign up. You can sign up on our city website or the website marquettemasterplan.org. And then next week is Art Week. And this year's theme is home, and all the events are free and family friendly. There's music, art shows, painting. My two favorites are the Sidewalk Chalk Festival in front of the Children's Museum and dancing at the Hurley Park Ball Field. I hear there's even square dancing, but there's a lot of activities. And pick up one of these magazines. They're here at City Hall, at the Arts and Culture Center, and at Travel Marquette. Okay, boards and committees, we have one reappointment for Christopher Jason for the Harbor Advisory Committee. Commissioners, do I have a motion for the reappointment? Commissioner Ottaway,
I move to reappoint Christopher Jason to the Harbor Advisory Committee as outlined.
okay, second. Commissioner Smith,
Second.
and comments, Commissioner Ottaway?
None at all, other than thank you.
Thank you to Jason for his service.
Okay. All in favor say yes,
Yes.
and motion passed 6-0. Okay, let us open it up for public comments. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making a public comment. We will do that.
So, I'm Matthew Songer at 2645 West Grove Street. You may have known me. I would like to ask that you look at 3D and 3I together, because the International Food Fest and UP City Fest are partnering together. We have a contract. We're sharing all the expenses, such as the stage, electricity, and the tent costs, and the bathroom costs, and so forth. So we're separate, and so, but we have a contract where each of us indemnify each other. And a couple weeks ago, there was just one entity being for a permit, and it got split apart, so then you see that now. So I just want to make sure there wasn't any confusion, because up to 2 weeks ago, it was just one event. We have a fun-free family event. I wanted you to know a little bit about it. And we kind of polled the community, particularly the youth. We wanted to have a youth event that was primarily targeted for 21 and under. And what would they want to see? And they actually said, this wasn't my idea, I actually didn't even know what it was. They wanted an e-sport competition. And So I don't know if you've ever heard, my wife's gonna pass these out. So you guys may not play video games, but maybe your children do, or grandchildren.
We all go to the city clerk.
Please pass
And,
those to the city clerk, please.
There is a QR code that the different groups, different age groups can actually go directly and sign up online. But this is a new event. We're going to hold that down. This is, to my knowledge, the first in the UP of having an esport tournament competition. There's going to be 300 in each age group, and and the finals are going to be on the main stage. The final four will be on the main stage, and we have some great prizes that have been donated by our industry, our businesses in town. And the Northern Film Crew is going to be filming it. So as they're doing it, if they're in the middle, so in those two big tents, if you're familiar with how the International Food Fest goes, there'll be two big tents for people to sit down. Well, those two tents on Saturday is going to be where the esport competition takes place. It'll be one in the afternoon and one in the evening. And the Northern Film Crew is going to do live video of them, and it's going to broadcast it on a big LED wall. So it's not just for them and their parents, and anybody going around can also see the kids see the kids playing. The Final Four will be right up on the stage. And this is along with bands and speakers and other things, stunt dudes that are going to be playing. So it's a full day. It's free to the kids, free to everybody, and supported by our community. And so I just respectfully vote with 4 seconds left that you vote in favor. Thank you. And if you have any questions, we'll be here, of course.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, I'm Valerie Olson, 116 Hillcrest Trail. I wanted to address you regarding the newly released information that's a result of the FOIA request that was made pertaining to one of the dental officers, Dr. Kumar, who is also a government official, so he had to respond to this FOIA request. And what it uncovered is really surprising, is really disappointing that there's so much corruption behind the scenes from dental agencies, from FDA, CDC, and EPA. I'm asking you please to read the document over, but also please will you go to the website and listen to the December 31st of 2021 trial clips, so you actually can hear these three agencies, EPA, CDC, and FDA, all openly admit under oath that they have no data to show the upper limit of safety so that there is not risk of harm to our children and the unborn of this fluoride chemical that's really fluorosilicic acid that's being added to the water supply. So now that we have 52 studies that undeniably show from the National Toxicology Report, this is our top agency in the country, so, you know, the highest toxicology agency we have. Now that we have their report after spending 6 years reviewing studies from all over the world, and the conclusion is there's no safe amount of fluoride that you can add to the water without risking neurological harm to our children and to the fetus. The problem with the fluoride is that we're getting it from other sources too. We're getting it from water, juice, things made from other, you know, food processed in cities where they're fluoridating the water. So, you know, I'm asking that you would seek the truth. You know, we've each been given the gift of life to make this world a better place. We can't make good decisions for the people we serve if we don't know the truth. And unfortunately, the truth has really been hidden on this issue for over 65 years now. Now that this trial has happened, I'm asking that you would please do your homework, listen to the clips in the trial, listen to the open admissions, which blows my mind, that they all can say, we have no data, we have no data, we have no data. Bottom line is that we need to put a moratorium on this until this trial concludes in January. I'm asking you to please do that for the sake of our children, for the sake of our unborn. And it isn't just them, because actually you'll hear in the trial clips, it affects the endocrine system, the thyroid, in everyone. But let's focus on the kids. They should not be put at risk when there are other ways to promote dental health. So please, I'm asking you to do that so that you can make a sound decision. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
I'm Doug Van Urk, 405 Lakewood Lane in Harvey. Retired mechanical engineer, and my career was designing, fabricating, installing air pollution control systems, including a lot of the scrubbers that the fertilizer plants use in Florida. Most of the fertilizer plants are down there. And it appalls me to think that the effluent, the collected material that the EPA forbids being discharged into the atmosphere is collected in these scrubbers and then very cleverly, ingeniously packed, sold, and shipped for use in fluoridation installations. That appalls me to think that that material that is not allowed to be discharged to the atmosphere is sold and used for adding to drinking water. That's poison. We're drinking poison when this fluoridation. I propose that we take time out and rethink this whole thing about the fluoridation thing. It seems to me that it's time to have an independent group, firm, make a study and look at it realistically and determine if it's a good idea or not. Yes, it does something positive for preventing tooth decay. But what are the side effects? What are the other effects? It's pretty easy to take care of a cavity, to fill a cavity, but what do you do about brain damage? How do you fix that? I think we need to study this and find out exactly all of the pros and all of the cons of the idea of adding this to the water. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Brandon Frisk. I live at 411 East Ridge Street in Marquette, and I am representing Kuma Sauna LLC. I just wanted to talk with you all about our vision for Sauna on Kuma, which is what we kind of have dubbed the name of our individual unit. This idea may be a relatively new concept for the city, but we see a not so distant future where sauna access on Lake Superior's public beaches become an expectation and not a novelty. Beachside saunas have been commonplace in Scandinavia for decades, and much like the Vikings, they have reached the shores of North America. In fact, in the past year, we've spent developing this plan in part with Marquette's Parks and Recreation Department. Waterfront sauna projects on public land have either begun or launched in locations as close as Duluth, Traverse City, and Charlevoix. We believe the city of Marquette can establish itself as a leader by embracing culturally relevant, community-driven ideas that, when done properly and thoughtfully, enhance the lakeshore for the local community rather than detract from or cheapen it. I just wanted to introduce who we are. If you don't know us, we're Yoopers who grew up sauning and swimming, and when hard pressed, sauning and jumping in snowbanks. We have, as I'm sure many of you have, experienced the magic feeling that occurs when combining the extreme heat and cold in what we call the Nordic cycle. That magic feeling shouldn't be reserved to those fortunate enough to buy, own, or inherit land along the lakeshore. Our mission is to bring access to that feeling, the one where relaxation meets exhilaration, to as many people as we can in our community. We believe to achieve that mission, our best path forward is to partner with the city of Marquette. As members of the Marquette community, we are blessed to have access to the world's largest cold plunge pool. And thanks to people like you, we've protected the good bits for the public to access. When we add the ability to sauna and then swim in cold water, we embrace empirically backed, nearly ancient wellness practices that help people live happier and healthier lifestyles. For the past year, we've worked with the Parks and Rec Department and met with groups like PRAB to help develop a plan that seamlessly integrates our idea with the natural surroundings of underutilized public use green space. In doing so, we've worked together to develop our plan with 3 basic concepts: mobile centricity, community first, and cultural sharing. At Sound on Kuma, flexibility is in our nature. We're easily movable, completely self-sufficient, beautifully designed, and require no permanent structures. We have built the perfect pilot program to test a new idea. We're community first. It's our vision that local people and businesses will establish daily, weekly rituals with us, where we can start every morning and every evening feeling relaxed, renewed, and
Mr.
ridiculously
Frisk,
awesome.
your time is up.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right. And if you do have any questions, we're happy to answer them at any time.
That was perfect timing. Barb, outside, 1324 North Front. I love the idea of sauning and cold water. It sounds very intriguing, but just before this meeting, and I'm glad this is only the first week of this, I ran over to the site that they're proposing to use, and I parked right under a huge sign that was crediting the beach restoration project funded by multiple agencies, including the city, for like well over $400,000. And then I walked down to the beach, not a lot of paths there, lots of beach grass. I just want to point that out. I also noted the prominent signs that said no swimming, dangerous drop-off area. I realized that We Energies is out of there, and it changes, the amount of water that's coming out and the riptide thing. But there still is the dead river there, and that's it. And I also understand that getting a strong east-southeast wind there is pretty, doesn't happen a lot. But still, you have to think about that part of, because my major concern, my first initial concern was about safety. And, I worry about, I read your proposal. The stewards, I think you call them, are these people certified? Minimally, I would expect that you would have a steward that's on staff would be a trained lifeguard, for example, because it's an area where there are drop-offs. Even without a current, there are drop-offs there. And that bottom is soft and, full of a lot of organic material because of the river. So I'm concerned about that. The other thing I wanted to point out is I know the fire department is in charge of safety at the waterfront. They're the ones that are in charge of the lifeguards ultimately. I wondered if they've actually been consulted and what their feeling was about the safety aspect. So again, I think it's a great idea. I'm a little concerned about that location. I'm concerned about safety. And I think that's all I wanted to tell you. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, Rick Newman, 1062 South Lake. I'm back to the fluoride idea. I heard the word truth mentioned earlier, and it just dawned on me that I watch a lot of old movies with my wife, and we see a lot of people smoking cigarettes. And I am not here to give a pro or con on that, but it seems to me that society is pretty much convinced that smoking cigarettes is not the best for our health. However, back when Humphrey Bogart was doing those movies, it is my assumption, I wasn't there, that somebody told people smoking is good. So I go back to what I heard the word earlier from someone, truth. Is smoking good or is smoking bad? And I want to relate that to fluoride. It is my belief that somewhere in the past, somebody told us that fluoride is good. I don't know, so I'm not going to make accusations about how much money those people might have made or whose brother-in-law did what, etc. But what is the truth? Is fluoride good or is fluoride bad? Just like tobacco. But when I hear things from numerous people whom I trust that say things like no obvious threshold at which fluoridating water is safe, and when I think about my kids and the possibility of fluoride and neurological problems, let us please seek the truth. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Ryan Miller, 217 Judy Street. I'm here also to comment on the fluoride issue. As that gentleman mentioned, I have a friend who was in charge of air quality enforcement for the EPA for New York, New Jersey, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. He says the exact same thing. They take that stuff out of the scrubbers. It's toxic as heck. Within the EPA, tremendous political pressure was brought to bear because of moneyed interests, and they were squelched if they tried to say anything against this. There are different factions in many government organizations. There's different factions who are working on different things. So to confirm what that gentleman said, the mechanical engineer. One thing to add to what Valerie said, fluoride is cumulative. It's cumulative in the fetus and young children because of the open blood-brain barrier. And this is why they are more vulnerable. Now, people will come up and say, I drank this water all my life, and I'm super intelligent. So what you're saying is wrong. You probably know from history, one of the most long-lived persons around smoked cigarettes their whole life. That anyone who is cognizant of the scientific method knows that's extremely faulty reasoning. Experiments of one have no validity. If you look at statistics, it'll tell you that. You folks have all the information on fluoride. Valerie's been giving it to you again and again. I sent an article teaching you by email. I have skin in the game now. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer about 3 years ago, okay? I didn't think fluoride caused cancer. I look at it now and I read things. The toxic load to the body, any toxic load to the body, impairs your immune system's ability to fight cancer. So this is very personal to me now. Do I know if it contributed to my cancer? I drank the water for 26 years. I don't know, but it's personal. I do have a thyroid issue. No one else in my family did. No one else in my family has ever had cancer. Again, I can't say it's causative, but I think it's very important to pay attention to that. One more thing, unfortunately, the city manager isn't here, but she made a comment on TV. This is unrelated to fluoride, but she talked on TV, and I wrote down the quote about how suddenly we found we were $6 million in arrears. And I'd like to really know who's accountable for that, how suddenly we can be $6 million in arrears. I haven't heard a good explanation, but if you folks could offer one, I'd love to hear it. But just wanted to give my opinion on the fluoride issue once again. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Bob Belmore. I live at 930 Wilson Street. I'm here to talk about the fluoride that's added to our drinking water also, and the chlorine amount that's in there. My wife can't drink that water. For right now, we're drinking bottled water, and it amazes me to see that when they handle these harmful chemicals, wearing hazmat suits, why are they putting this in our drinking water? That's all. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street, and I come here tonight having been labeled a statistical anomaly, a one-off piece of data that has no validity. because I grew up in the city of Marquette drinking fluoridated water, and at the age of 5th grade was told I was the smartest kid in the nation on a standardized test. Sorry that my fact doesn't match with your story, but that's a fact. Number two, the papers that they're waving at you were obtained under Freedom of Information Act. They have not been released as an official statement of government policy. You can tell that when you look through the 780 pages, which I've read, that they have draft notes, they have objections, they are under review. So for you to take any action of a document that is under review is precipitate. It's too soon. We've been doing this fluoridation for over 50 years. Now we have a passionate, determined group of amateurs declaring that if we remove fluoride from the water, all of our problems will go away, all of the illness in this town will go away, our children will suddenly grow taller, stronger, and wonderful. And I don't mean to mock any parent's concern about their kids, but I'm simply saying you don't let one group of people decide for a city. Number two, whatever document they've given you, the documents in that report do not match the conclusion that there is no safe level of fluoride. The reason the report hasn't been approved is because they're trying to make a statement that there is no safe level of fluoride based on data that is double the amount that is added in the city of Marquette and is the recommended amount by the EPA. You cannot reason by analogy a person who has 2 beers a night saying that they're going to get into trouble, but they know darn well if they go to 4 or 6 beers a night, there's going to be a different effect. That is their logic, which is 1 beer is still a problem. And the answer to that is, have you seen the bars in Marquette? I resent amateur people coming in front of this commission, waving papers around, demanding that a public policy be changed based on how they feel about it, and telling you over and over again that this is the way the government feels when it isn't official, hasn't been approved, and there's a lot of good reasons for it. So I'm going to sit up here, and every time they tell me I'm a one-off statistical anomaly, I'm going to say yes, and I'm proud of that. Thank you. Secondly, on the sauna idea, I have to say I'm against it. That is very delicate beach sand. We've had a massive flood situation. People have paid a fortune to try to reseed that. And furthermore, I myself have gotten out of a sauna and walked into ice cold water. And even when I was younger, that is a huge shock. And you don't want people drifting out dead from this shock when you don't have to. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else for public comment?
I'm Dorothy Venerka. I live at 405 Lakewood Lane. I'm a retired nurse. I also grew up here and was valedictorian of my class, so I wasn't damaged by the water I drank here. However, I'm speaking tonight, and some of these comments have already been made, so I will not repeat any of them. But I'm just here to speak for those who can't speak for themselves, and that's our infants, our fetuses, our grandchildren. I'm guessing everyone in this room has a child you love and you want to protect. How can we ignore the fact that an arm of our National Health and Human Services, the National Toxicology Program, spent 6 years studying the effects of fluoride on humans. And after they reviewed 55 studies, they concluded that the addition of fluoride in water is neurotoxic. It harms the brains of fetuses and children. We've heard other side effects too. It affects adults. And that there are no safe levels to put in water. Hundreds of communities across our country no longer fluoridate their water. I heard that Iron Mountain said no to this. I think it's Hancock. Either Houghton or Hancock also said no to it. So I'm speaking for the kids. Let's stop risking the health of our children. Please look at facts and come to a conclusion to, at least for now, maybe we can put a moratorium on using this toxic chemical. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for public comment? Okay, public comment is now closed. We have a presentation tonight by the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board by Leonard Bodenis. Leonard, if you would come up to the podium.
Hello, everyone. Just introduce myself. My name is Leonard Bodinas. I am the Marquette Township representative on the Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board. I'm also the superintendent of public works for Marquette Township. And I was chosen to give this presentation here tonight. So, start. So a little background on our board here. We have two township representatives, one from Chalk Township, one from Marquette Township. Brad Johnson is a Chalk Township representative. I am the Marquette Township representative, and then we have James Compton, Sean Hobbins, George Patrick from the city as representatives, and then we have our two alternates, which are the township managers, John Kangas from Marquette Township and Bill DeGroot. And we're still vacant on one representative. So the board meets the third Thursday of each month at the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Plant. I believe our next meeting is this coming Thursday. The board is comprised of 3 governmental entities which own the facility together. The Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board was established by an intergovernmental agreement on April 19th, 1977. The board oversees the operation of the facility under the provisions of the intergovernmental agreement, recommend the rules and regulations regarding facility operations, allocate and assign fixed demand costs based on ownership. So right now, the city of Marquette has 84% ownership, Marquette Township has 9%, and Chalk Township has 7%. The board allocates and assigns operation and maintenance costs based on measured plant influent flow. It also makes recommendations regarding proposed operating budget for the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Facility. The per unit rate flow. So right now on 2022, we're at $2.07. So you can kind of see the graph from the last few years. Some of the other previous years were a little wetter than others. Some years are drier. So that kind of, I don't know if Mark can maybe explain that a little bit better if there's any other questions about how that works. The history of the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Facility. So planning for treatment started in 1941 and initial construction as primary treatment plant in 1951. So we kind of came a long way since taking a bucket and throwing it out the bathroom, or bedroom window, I should say, into the streets. So we got up to the modern day with secondary treatment upgrade in 1978, and we redesigned and constructed the plant in 2008. So some of the accomplishments of the board. We've maintained a stable budget. We have updated the plant's operating control software and hardware. So we kind of came up in the modern era with more SCADA, more design, or more intricate type of processes. We've also filled all the vacancies on the board. Okay. We've also secured a low-interest state revolving loan with $5.85 million in grant funding for the solids handling project. We have also commissioned a new bypass pump, allowing the facility to operate as designed during wet weather events, eliminating permit violations. And I think that was a real big deal here this past spring with all the water. So that really helped. Some of the goals for the upcoming year. We hope to have a successful solids handling improvement project. We hope to pursue more land application sites and additional agricultural land. We'll continue updating the asset management plan, and when I mean we, I'm actually mean Mark and his team at the plant there. We'll continue maintaining reserve replacement fund and promote staff development. The solids handling improvement project. This project will include several improvements. It will add biosolids storage, so we meet the requirement 180-day storage. There will be a new belt filter press for redundancy. Septic receiving station that will add revenue and increase biogas production. Add post aeration to eliminate dissolved oxygen permit violations, and a vector pad improvement. This is a picture of the current biosolids storage facility. That's it. Is there any questions? Sorry, I went through that kind of fast.
That's okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Smith?
I'll just say while we're on the topic, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the upgrades and the work that you all do and the staff as well, so thank you. I know it's important to have clean water, important to have flooding control when those things are happening and, you know, solid waste and everything in between. So thank you. I wish the people who would come, you know, to talk about fluoride would have stayed for this presentation, but they all walked out the door by my account, which is a little disappointing. Related, I might as well just say that I would only be willing to reconsider our stance on that if the CDC or the state of Michigan came out with a strong recommendation. And to this point, that is not the case, and I will not comment on this again until that happens. Thank you.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Stonehouse.
Just a quick comment thanking you for what you guys do. It is, it's certainly no open secret that folks that live here have a deep commitment to the purity of Lake Superior, the purity of the land and air that we all need to survive. And the Marquette Waste Treatment Plant, the waterworks as we might call it, really does a terrific job of helping us reach and achieve that dream. We all have a reason to protect it. It's really in our own best interest, but to have an agency as efficient and as dedicated as you guys are is just, I think, most remarkable and stellar for all of us. Thank you for what you do.
And I'm going to give credit to Mark and his team over the wastewater plant. And us in the township, we try to do our part of the wastewater that we're sending to the plant, but basically it's their team that's keeping everything going and making sure all the limits and the permits and everything are met there. So those are the guys that were out there 24 hours when the water was flowing pretty heavy through.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay. Well, the previous commissioners said it very well, but I just want to say that I think we're very fortunate to have a sophisticated water treatment plant in the city. And I know that we have staff with really good expertise, and they continue to educate yourself. And I see it's one of your ongoing or upcoming things that you want to do this year is continuing education. So I strongly support that, and I really appreciate the staff. And Commissioner Ottaway wants to say something.
Sorry to jump in.
That's okay.
Mayor Pro Tem. Just as you were talking on education, it kind of popped something in my mind. I remember as a kid in school, middle school, we got to tour the wastewater treatment plant. Are those things still happening for school children? Because I can tell you, as somebody that went to school, well, it seems like many years ago now, it's something that still sticks in my head. And I mean, it was really one of the coolest things I can remember doing. Is that something that's happening currently?
Yes, we do give a lot of tours. As a matter of fact, we had 25 kids come through today.
Awesome.
But we are going to suspend part of the tours more than likely because of the construction.
Cool.
So, but yes, we're always happy to give tours.
Thank you.
So again, thank you for complying with industry standards and having such an excellent staff and a board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Commissioners, do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Commissioner Stonehouse.
Your Honor, I motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Do I have a second? Commissioner Hanley.
I second that.
Commissioner Stonehouse, comments?
No comment, Your Honor.
Commissioner Hanley? Okay. Before we take a vote, I know that there's been some questions about this, and I want to make sure that people recognize that this is a first read. It will show us up again at our next meeting, but if city staff could maybe address some of the concerns that have been brought up.
I believe you're referring to the sauna.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'd probably kick it over to our Director of Community Services, John Swinson. I believe the questions were on safety, beach access, and was there anything else addressed?
I believe that is it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, we've done a little bit of research on all that stuff, but maybe a little bit more research before the next meeting, just in terms of, I'd like to reach out to Superior Watershed Partnership on the dune grass. And then we have talked with the fire department on the safety side, and they're not concerned at this point. But just in terms of, it was a good point about the signs that were there from We Energy. So we'd like to double check that just to make sure that's an outdated piece of this. But at this point, all the entities that have looked at it have not had any of those concerns. So we'll do a little bit further research, but at this point, those boxes are mostly checked. So.
Okay, also, and again, it's the first read. It'll show up at our meeting, our next meeting. It will also go before the Harbor Advisory Committee tomorrow night.
Correct.
For their review. So there's still some things that will be happening with it. Okay, commissioners, any other comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye or yes?
Aye.
Yes. Or yes. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, we have one new business item. It is the 2020 post-census group quarters review. City Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, Mayor. In May 2022, the U.S. Census Bureau introduced the 2020 Post-Census Group Quarters Review, the 2020 PCGQR, as a mechanism for local governmental units in the United States to request a review of the population counts for group quarters believed to be incorrectly counted as of April 1st, 2020. This is a one-time program created to recognize that group quarters may have been undercounted in the 2020 census due to impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to census residence criteria, students living away from home at college should, in most cases, be counted at their college, even if they were temporarily elsewhere during the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on this guidance, staff have determined, with the assistance of Northern Michigan University officials, that the student population residing in the NMU residence halls during the winter 2020 semester were undercounted by approximately 1,000 students. City staff has worked with the city attorney to prepare the necessary materials to file the 2020 PCGQR. The deadline for filing is June 30th, 2023. Fiscal effect: none by filing the 2020 PCGQR. If successful, the city may see additional revenue sharing from the state of Michigan as a result of more accurate census population determination. Recommendation: authorize the city manager or her designee to file the 2020 post-census group quarters review. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, do I have a motion for this item? Commissioner Larson.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the city manager or designee to file the 2020 post-census group quarters review.
And a second, Commissioner Ottaway.
Second.
Okay, this is a very interesting and important topic. So before we go into a discussion with the commission, I'm going to ask the city staff to provide any other information that you feel we should have about this. Apparently, that's our city attorney.
Sure. I think I've probably done the most research on this. I would say that this is a pretty unique opportunity to fix what we believe was an undercount in the city. That became apparent pretty quickly that we did not believe our numbers, our population had decreased, but when it came back lower, we were a little surprised and started trying to figure out where that was. It became pretty apparent pretty quickly that it was all in Census Tract 5, which is the dormitories for NMU. By looking at the information from the 2010 census, it became pretty apparent that that's where that was. And NMU staff has been very helpful in giving us the correct information and identifying that that is, that was, we believe, undercounted. There is no cost to participate. So without this special program, before this was introduced, originally we were looking at doing a partial recount, which the city would have to pay for. There are some other options, but those didn't really fit because those are really clerical errors from the Census Bureau, and that's not really what happened. And then they introduced this program, and it is almost a perfect fit for what our problem is. So the goal would be that if this is approved, there's a matrix that's been completed on their form. We have some documentation from NMU that we would submit with it, and the goal would be to submit it and hope that they correct it. I am aware that the city of Phoenix, Boston, Detroit have all had some correction made under this particular program since this program opened. So we're hopeful that maybe we'll get that corrected. It does not impact the census count for the state of Michigan, so it doesn't increase the state's census. It doesn't change our representatives, in the Senate, the House, things like that. But we're hopeful that it would increase our revenue sharing from the state of Michigan based on the actual population we have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to add,
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead. No, that's okay.
I think we're looking at about close to $80,000 in annual revenue loss as a result of this undercount. So this work that Suzanne has done has been really important. It's just another piece to making sure we're getting all the compensation we're entitled to underneath the state of Michigan. And I just want to thank our NMU partners for working so diligently with us on this.
Commissioner Larson, this was your motion. Do you have any comments or questions?
None at this time. I think the staff have
Okay.
addressed it all.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Suzanne, you'd mentioned some of the cities that you noticed with potential changes. One of the questions I do have is, have you noticed any cities with the size and the caliber of Marquette, I guess, that have had changes, from this program?
So they list on their website, and it's been a little bit, maybe a month since I looked at it, but they list the governments that have applied and whether they have been approved or not. And really, there were only about a dozen, and none of them were communities that I was super familiar with. The three that I mentioned, I'm only aware of because I saw a recent news article in which basically Phoenix was the largest city that had this work. So there were not a lot of people who appeared to have taken advantage, but they did not list the people who had them pending, and they may be filing later like we are.
Great.
So I'm not sure about our, size, a community of our size.
Okay. No, the only reason I ask, I mean, obviously this is a must-do, win-win type scenario for us regardless, but it's always one of those things where you worry a city of our size just gets swept under the rug, especially when you mention cities like Detroit, Phoenix, things like that.
So they do review each application separately.
Great.
So it's, it basically is, do you have the proof that this was counted incorrectly? And I honestly, I don't know exactly what they look at. I mean, their guidelines is about 70 pages long, but a lot of that is telling you how to find out the information of what the count is per tract and things like that, and to find out the information you need to actually fill out their form, and how to file it, because you have to put it into a zip drive, do it electronically, you have to call them to get a password and some things like that. So most of it is related to the logistics like that. So.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions, commissioners? Okay. Suzanne, thank you so much for the work that you've been doing on this, and also I do appreciate Northern's cooperation as we move forward, so it looks like it's a nice attempt to not lose the money that we could potentially lose. So I will call the motion. All those in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Which brings us to our next public comment section. So comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comments.
Barb Outside. I just want to.
Your address, please, Barb?
1324 North Front. Suzanne, I just wanted to ask, and I just thought I'd take this opportunity, if Northern, in this discussion about the census, did they have any plans to make sure that this doesn't happen next time there's a census, I guess is my question. And I just thought I'd take that opportunity to say that. And my other thing I wanted to say, I know you guys really value what I have to say. I'm kind of for taking the fluoride out. We can all take fluoride pills if we want to give them to our children, but I've done some research myself, and I'm kind of on that side of the fence, just for the record. All right, thanks. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street. I am the one data point anomaly in the issue of fluoride. I didn't mean to come across as unsympathetic to people who have illness and are looking for a reason for it and trying to prevent other people from gaining illness. I didn't mean to come across unsympathetic for honest people saying, for the sake of the children, we need to remove this chemical. A little bit more history. I grew up in this town with 4 older brothers and 2 parents who worked, and I needed a new pair of glasses every year growing up. My parents couldn't afford to take me to the dentist and to get a new pair of glasses. So I saw the dentist once when I was 6 years old, and I saw him the next time in my 20s. And I didn't have one cavity. And it wasn't because, I did brush my teeth, don't get me wrong, but the fact is the dentist said the only thing that saved me was fluoride. So that flippant comment about it's not that easy to fix a cavity, I just wanted to scream, if you have the resources and have access to a dentist, which not everybody does. Number 2, the reason I'm so adamantly asking you to wait for other people to come to a conclusion is that I resent people taking half-baked science, waving it around and saying, they says this. Because I live my life on data points. I live my life on things that are in footnotes and things that are looking at the comments in the right-hand side. I don't know if history will prove us right or wrong about fluoride. I do know that these people who are coming after you, in a meeting with the city manager, I said, why don't you sue? We don't have the resources to sue. Well, then you're just going to keep coming to the commission and badgering them. Yes, we have that right. And they have, and they're going to continue to badger. And as long as they get up and badger you, I'm going to remind people this isn't official yet. That lawsuit they're talking about, it's on hold pending this report. They can't get people to agree to the science. It's basically they want the report to say there's no safe level of fluoride. That's like saying there's no safe level of beer. Well, I've explained to my dog there's no safe level of beer for a dog because they can't process it. There isn't anybody in this room who would argue that for an adult in good health, you can't have a beer. So the dosing in that report is 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 times higher than what the state recommends and what you are following. You're in the mainstream of fluoride treatment. You're not an outlier, and you've been doing it long enough that it should have shown up. Now, if you wanted to do something, have the Marquette County Health Department talk to Houghton, because they haven't had fluoride. And I'm sure that they've had I read the news article. And secondary about this is you deserve all the facts. And when you only hear from the bullies waving papers around, you don't have all the facts. So you're going to keep hearing from me. And remember, I'm a one data point anomaly. That's who I am. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else for? Anyone else for public comment? Okay, public comment is now closed. Which brings us to comments from the commission, and I'm going to start with Commissioner Smith.
I have no comment this evening.
Okay, Commissioner Stonehouse?
I will only echo Commissioner Smith earlier. I will take no action regarding fluoride until I see definitive guidance coming down from either the state of Michigan or the CDC. Thank you. Nothing further.
You're welcome. Commissioner Hanley?
I've got nothing tonight.
And Commissioner Larson?
I know he's already left, but I was excited to hear that they're doing a esports competition. Esports is one of the growing fields, and my kids love to watch other people play video games, which is kind of a crazy thing, but it's something, a different way to connect with folks. So I'm excited that they're moving forward on that.
Okay. Commissioner Ottaway?
First, I'll just echo what Commissioner Larson had to say. I think it is pretty exciting. I'm sure my kids are going to be excited about that as well. It is kind of strange to see kids watching YouTube screaming at other kids while they're playing games. It's just wild to me, and I never thought we would get there as a society, but we are there. Secondly, as most of my peers up here know, one of the things I often do is, luckily enough in my job, I'm able to just kind of work from home, and usually that means I'm sitting in my car somewhere by the lake, and gives me time to kind of pay attention to what is going on. So a few different things that have really come to mind that I've brought up to the city manager. The idea of off-leash dogs is becoming more of a problem, it seems like, especially on the bike path. I've mentioned this before as well, off-leash dogs going onto the beach. And people with leash dogs going onto the beach, specifically walking right past the signs that say no dogs allowed on the beach. One of those things that it's so difficult to police. We can't ask our police chief to be there and babysit the beach the entire time. So it's one of those impossible things where I just will ask people to please follow the rules. They're there for a reason. We don't want children playing, in a sand where an animal has defecated or obviously we don't want pets off leash that are going to attack people and potentially do more harm than good. Everyone thinks that their dog is a good dog until they're not. So that's one of the things that I've noticed. The second thing that I've noticed that I've brought up to the city manager, and I think it's probably something we're all aware of, the idea of motorized vehicles on the bike path, especially when considering the e-bike usage that is increasing, the usage of throttled e-bikes in particular. I've noticed a huge uptick, as I'm sure city staff and police has noticed, a huge uptick in just the amount of speed on the bike path where we have pedestrians walking and people that are not on e-bikes pedaling. It does seem to be concerning and something we need to take action with soon. Lastly, I wasn't going to say this, but fluoride is the topic tonight. I will just make my one comment on fluoride when it comes down to it. this piece of paper that they passed us, the documentation that they've been providing us, as it's been pointed out, none of it is official. Basically, we have failed lawsuit attempts that are not going anywhere because of failed peer reviews, because, well, there's been nothing that's actually been proven. When it comes to what the city of Marquette or any municipality decides to do with fluoride, I don't think it should be people that are on a city commission that are making those choices. We have professionals that work in this city that determine what chemicals are going in our water, and they're going there for a reason. And we would be smart to make sure that those people are making the choice and doing so as the law tells them to do. So that's my only comment on fluoride. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no comments this evening. I'm going to first turn to the city manager and ask if you can address the question that Ms. Outside had. Oh, Ms. Sean is going to. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to the assistant city manager anyway.
Yep. So it's a good point, Barb, but we really believe that the cause of the undercount was COVID-19. That's right when the census was occurring and Northern sent everybody home. So I don't foresee a way for them to make an adjustment for a future pandemic. If we in 2030 that's occurring, you can call me up and say I was wrong, but I don't know how to ask them to account for that in the future. So, yep. Did you have any other?
Wondering if you could also perhaps address the motorized vehicles on the bike path and the speed limit there.
Sure. I believe the speed limit on the bike path is 20 miles per hour. I think it's pretty difficult to enforce with bicycle traffic. This commission did pass some guidelines on e-bikes. Only class 1 e-bikes are allowed. That is non-throttle, pedal assisted up to 20 miles per hour. So we just ask everyone be courteous and follow the rules of the bike path, maintain a proper speed, and yield to pedestrians walking. We are continuing to look at the e-bike issue. I don't have too much more I can offer on that this time.
And anyone else, anything else you would like to?
Yep. So a couple things, just topically while we're talking about the wastewater treatment plant, I just want to reiterate, like how excellent our crews are, both the wastewater treatment plant crew and the sewer crews. They are the reason why we were able to successfully manage the storm at the beginning of May, and their constant work, which we've tried to highlight during Public Works Week the other week, is really just a huge asset for the city. Karen and I will be at Peter White Public Library this Wednesday at 10 a.m. for our open office hours. We held our first office after hours last week, but this will be our regularly scheduled meeting at the library. And that's Wednesday at 10 a.m. In the room upstairs. And then, as you stated earlier, please visit marquettemasterplan.org to see the ongoings of the master planning process. If you'd like to attend the sessions this week, you do have to RSVP, and you can do so on that website. And then Art Week is next week. Visit marquettecompass.com for information regarding that. Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned at 6:58.